welcome to another episode. I'm Mike Monticello.
I'm Maddie McCarty.
I'm Alex Isaac.
So today we're going to be talking about our first impressions of the 2026 Lucid Gravity. I think maybe the most important things that if you don't know anything about this car, basically it's Lucid's second model. It's joining the Air, which we've already tested, which was a sedan. The Gravity is an SUV that can actually be configured as you can get a third row option. So it can be either a 2-row SUV or a 3-row SUV. And then I think something else to think about is 828 horsepower, right? So lots of horsepower, long driving range. And then the price. It starts at $94,900. So those are kind of the main things to think about. And maybe also, what does it compete against, right? Well, you could say Tesla Model X, very old, but it is, 3-row SUV. Mercedes-Benz EQS SUV, Rivian R1S, Volvo EXC90. And I kind of figure, why not lump the Kia EV9 and Hyundai Ioniq 9 into that mix? Because they're really good, right? So that's kind of the quick hit. But what I really want to do is just get right into kind of the gritty. Like, what do we like and what do we not like about this? And so, Maddie, let's start with you. What did you like about the Lucid Gravity?
I liked how it drove. So I like taking it on the highway, and it's very zippy because of all that horsepower. And it's kind of a smooth ride, very easy to just pass someone really quickly. It goes very, very fast.
Definitely going to do that.
Yeah. So I think that was probably one of my top things about it that I liked.
There's something... there's something very luxurious about that much power, right? You know what I mean?
It's you don't need
it's
that
exhilarating,
much power.
But it's also just luxurious that if you need to get around, there's almost like no 2-lane passing zone that it can't just handle that, right? So there's, besides being thrilling, it's also kind of a luxury to have that much power.
Luxury, at least in my eyes, is convenience, right? And it's super convenient in the sense of you just blast around people. You're not waiting for a downshift from a transmission or the power to build or whatever. You just do the thing you want to do. Instantly, basically.
And it's an SUV, so having that amount of power to be able to just zip around through traffic is impressive. So we have a new kind of version of Dream Drive that we previously evaluated Dream Drive, which is their ADAS system. So that's going to be like lane centering and adaptive cruise control. We previously looked at this on their 2023 Air. So that was a long time ago. So for us, this is a newer version. And so I think there were a lot of issues that we found in the Air. So hopping into this Gravity, I think was a much better experience. So previously in the Air, it was very rigid when you're in terms of steering. So you didn't really feel like you had much control. It was felt like the car was kind of driving you instead of you being the driver.
If you tried to add steering back in, it was resistant to that?
If you wanted to even change lanes, you'd have to pop it out of the center line and then reactivate it every single time. Now in the Gravity, it's much more fluid and you can give it your own steering so that if you're passing a semi, you can just give it a little bit of more distance and it will automatically even do that if you want it to. There's a setting that's lane biasing.
Right.
So I experienced that and I was actually quite impressed because it even showed me on the screen that it was doing that. So I understood why we were no longer exactly centered in the lane. So I think that has a lot more capabilities now. It's smoother, definitely is communicating a lot more in the display in the driver's screen so that I know what's going on and I can see what the car is seeing in a way.
Yeah. Well, that's good. It's nice to see that they're improving things.
And a lot of those improvements they're also making to the Air, right?
Yes.
We still own that Air that you mentioned and we were seeing it through over-the-air updates and the hardware might be different, but we're seeing better collaboration than when we originally tested it.
I think it's important to keep in mind that this is still in the grand scheme, a relatively new automaker, right? So they're still, this is only their second model. They're still kind of working the bugs out, right, of some of these things.
I'm glad you brought that up because I think the trope, I guess, out there around this is, they should have started with the SUV, right? Because SUVs are more popular. And probably from a monetary perspective, they would have sold more SUVs than they did the sedan had they started with that. But getting into it, that original Air was pretty rough around the edges, right? In a lot of ways. So they've now had a couple years under their belt of not only designing that car, but producing it and putting it together, which is arguably the harder part. And I think that shows when you get into the Gravity. Is it perfect? No. And we'll talk about that. But just from the way everything fits and is put together and the NVH and how quiet it is comparatively, it's better for it. So it's almost, at least in my opinion, that perspective, it's better they started with the sedan, kind of got that out of the way in terms of learning curve and things, because they are
now the more popular one comes out.
and it's better. Yeah. So,
true.
I mean, we'll see as far as the sales strategy and stuff like that. That's the other part, right? But I think it's better because they got one car under their belt first, right?
Yeah.
And I think they're definitely utilizing over-the-air updates because they are advertising they have hands-free lane centering coming. When that is exactly, we don't know. It's supposed to be this year, but
and so this would be something along the lines of a Super Cruise, of a Blue Cruise, that kind of thing, where it's intended for you to have your hands off the wheel in certain sections of highway, that kind of thing.
So you have a driver-facing camera that's going to be monitoring the driver's eyes to make sure that they're looking at the road, and that would enable them to take their hands off the wheel, still remaining attentive and like looking at the road and making sure that, you know, there's no hazard that they need to intervene for. But that hasn't happened yet in the Gravity. So that is a software update that should happen in the future, has been promised, but that's the problem, is we don't know when, and they're selling the car before that capability has been put on the car.
Right.
So that's positive and a downside of having a vehicle with over-the-air updates like this.
Yeah.
That the owner just doesn't know when it's going to happen,
Yeah.
right? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Well, and they start selling the car before it's done.
Yeah.
We're seeing that more and more, not just from Lucid, but just
others too.
when the promise of over-the-air updates is there and you can do it in a more comprehensive way, like this car is capable of. You just put the car out before it has all the features that were, paid for and promised to the customer.
Any more likes?
I mean, I like the interior kind of. I know
Like the design, the style.
Yeah. There's a lot of different textures of the fabrics. I did see in the logbook that we have misaligned panels or just some small imperfections that maybe we don't see on more established luxury vehicles. But overall, the effect was I sat in it and I felt like I was in a luxury vehicle. The seats were comfortable. It has massage seats with many different types of massages. So
They're pretty decent too.
Yeah.
A lot of times massage seats are kind of just like
the lumbar just like inflating and deflating.
They don't really.
I think kind of what you were touching on is that it feels like, correct me if I'm wrong, high quality materials, but maybe some of the actual build quality is still not quite there, right? So, like some things are a little misaligned or seem a little cheap in the way they operate, right? Is that kind of what you're saying?
The seat folding mechanism was a little funny. Even the second row, the third row had some issues, which some of them, look, this is a borrowed car. It's been around different. We're not the only ones to put our hands on it. So who knows? Right. We'll see when we buy ours in the future.
Right. And what about you, Alex? What, kind of above and beyond what Maddie was talking about that she liked, or if you want to expand on any of those, feel free.
Yeah. So I think what really stood out here, and it was true on the Air, and they're just kind of taking it to the next level, is the efficiency of the car in a couple different ways. One, of course, the powertrain efficiency. I mean, it was just anecdotal driving it around, but saw pretty high miles per kilowatt hour, which is great. So basically that means they're getting more range, that like 380 something range coming from, at least we'll call it a more modest size battery pack than they kept comparing it when we were talking with Lucid to the Escalade IQ.
Right.
And it has basically double the size battery pack for a similar type of driving.
The Cadillac does.
The Cadillac does. Yeah. So they're really attempting here to make a vehicle that gives you that type of space and driving range without just throwing a bunch of battery pack at it, which I really like. It makes the car lighter, hopefully less expensive, right? Because an EV is mostly driven by its battery, cost at this point anyway. So that was cool. And then also packaging wise, like they are designing and producing their own motors in-house, which just like the Air, they're really, really small if you look at them. So you just get a bunch of storage space and then you add it to this basically minivan shaped thing. And you put all the seats down, you look at this gigantic interior volume that you have. And it's
massive.
It's pretty cool. So it's an interesting approach that they're taking.
There's way more room inside than you would expect. By looking at it and that it's a third row, and we're just so used to third rows being penalty boxes, for adults. And
it's actually not that bad.
It's not that bad.
Agreed. And then I did like, not only does it have 800 something horsepower, which is pretty ridiculous.
828.
828, that's right. But it manages it well. Like you step on it, and a lot of we've driven some EVs where they just don't have enough tire or the traction control can't handle it, whatever it might be. This seems to have both of those things pretty dialed in. So you put your foot down and you can actually use that power, and it's not torque steering all over the road or something like that.
Right.
So
there's a little bit of torque steer, but we've seen way more torque steer in vehicles with way less power. So I totally agree. It's impressive how they're harnessing that.
Yeah. And then I agree. The interior is definitely a nice place to sit and just spend time and whatever. The seats were comfortable.
Can we talk about the experiences that they put in?
You go.
Okay, so when you're charging and you have nothing to do, and can we also, I'm just going to slip in there that the charging is very fast, but they have two displays. So they have one right here along from like the A pillar to about like, I don't know, 2/3 of the way into the cabin, and then a lower screen as well. And then they have these experiences where it's like tranquility. And what it does is it puts on this like nice little forest display, and then it like can guide you through a meditation, which I didn't do.
Is there soft music playing? Or?
Yes.
Okay.
You can have the sound of the ocean, and it's like surround sound, and it's just very calming. And I don't know if I would use it every time, but it was fun to experience.
You used it, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Didn't you say you and your wife used it when you got back home or something?
Yeah, it was like we were driving it at night. We got home, parked in the driveway, and I was playing around. I was like, this is kind of silly. What is this?
Yeah.
Right? I click on it, it comes up. And then 15 minutes later or whatever, we're still sitting there looking at the little dot, and it's like focusing on these stars or something funny. And it was actually kind of nice. I'm not going to lie. Would I use it every time? Probably not. But at least for one time, it was fun.
It's good to know that you can't do that while you're driving. Like it won't do the screen
from
part.
a safety aspect.
Yeah.
It will turn on the audio though. It'll like start guiding you through a meditation while driving, which is a little, I don't know. That's a different level of distraction we're going to have to take a look at. But at least it doesn't show you the visuals.
Yeah.
Anything else?
The handling, the ride, I agree. More objectively, it's good in the sense of like it turns in really fast and pretty low body roll. It has the, which I believe the one we're going to buy won't have the rear steer where, basically all four wheels are steering, but this one did. And so that made the turning radius pretty good, despite this vehicle being pretty long with a pretty huge wheelbase. So
it's the steering's very quick when you're on, a twisty road or whatever, that it is nice to have that quick steering, and it's very responsive if you're making any throttle adjustments like mid-turn. I agree. And I thought it rode pretty well too. It did. Especially considering how good the handling is. It's not like it's a really jarring ride or anything like that. I think the suspension's pretty firm, but there's a layer of absorption. It keeps most bumps out.
Third time's the charm.
And so I thought I thought they'd have a pretty good ride handling mix.
Yeah, agreed. And the other thing that comes to mind, and again, holistically, maybe not the greatest, but there are some physical controls in the car, right, Maddie? Like, maybe not the best, but they didn't go full touchscreen.
Yes. You still have a few climate controls.
Right.
And a volume roller in the center. So you can do a few things.
I don't really have much to add as far as likes. I really enjoyed just the driving of it from forget the controls for a second, but just the actual driving, like you said, Maddie, the powertrain, Alex, you're talking about the handling and those parts are really, really good. But we sort of touched on the interior space, and it just really is impressive when I think about the driving position. There's no center console intrusion. The armrests are nicely placed and pretty well padded. There's good headroom for the driver. Second row seats, again, lots of space. Third row, I thought it was pretty good. Decent headroom, enough knee space for me. Again, I'm not super tall, but I think an adult can sit back there for at least a little while. Yeah. And a lot of third rows, they just don't want to, right? So
yeah, especially in this EV 3-row segment, right? Like that EQS SUV you mentioned has it just shouldn't have a third row.
They should take that third row out.
It saves some weight, saves some cost. It's actually, and this is, if you look at this thing next to any of those other competitors you mentioned, it's way lower in terms of, the roof height, it's lower to the ground. Kind of looks like you wouldn't have that third row space. But then you get back there and it's pretty good. So again, that packaging coming into play.
All right. So let's talk about, those are our positives. Let's talk about some of our negatives. Alex, do you want to start since Maddie went first with the positives? You want to start with the negatives?
Yeah. Yeah, so I guess on that ride and handling front that we were talking about, for me, it felt like, and it ties into powertrain too, like the vehicle felt a little disjointed. They're trying to make it do absolutely everything, right? Be really fast, be really comfortable, be really efficient. I don't know. Physics doesn't really let you have everything all at once, right? There are compromises. And so the really quick handling and steering input and things like that kind of felt like it was a little contradictory to what the vehicle was trying to do otherwise, and being really comfortable in a great highway cruiser. Like you mentioned, Maddie, we took it, had some people in the back seats driving to a concert. So we're on the highway or whatever. It almost took a lot of attention and effort and diligence to be comfortable with it.
To be smooth.
Yeah, to be smooth.
With the steering.
Because the steering was so quick, and the power can get away from you a little bit if you apply too much, right? So I appreciated its comfort and relaxation side more than I appreciated, I think, the trying to be a sports car side, if that makes sense.
It's almost like the hands-free might help the experience from the perspective because you know, like you said, you normally you can drive down the road and you don't have to even, most cars, you don't even think about your steering on the highway, right? It's just not even a factor, right? But here, any little input has a big output, I guess, is a way of saying it. And so the driver has to concentrate more so that they aren't jerking the passengers around, you know, so.
Yeah, so we'll see. I mean, again, ours won't have the rear steer, which could change it. Also, if this had a certain type of adaptive suspension that I don't think ours is going to have, so, and air spring. So who knows? It might behave differently on the highway.
Right.
So that was one thing. Visibility stinks.
Better than the Air? I mean, maybe.
In some ways.
Yeah.
Like,
That's a tough
that was one of the bad things about the Air is that, I mean, it looks really cool, but the pillars are so thick all the way around.
The A-pillars are massive, and it's at that point, it's like I was relying on my proximity sensors to like back up anywhere or do any. I also at night, I know I'm kind of doing a little segue here, but the backup camera, there's no illumination behind you. Yeah, really just relying on the beeping from the car telling me I'm too close to something, because the screen is just like basically black at night. And not even raining. I can't even imagine what it would be like raining, but
I just don't see anything.
Probably unusable.
Yeah.
So yeah, not great visibility.
Yeah. So, I mean, at least that A-pillar doesn't come so close to my head like it does in the Air, because you're in that car, you're lower, right? So like that A-pillar is like right here. You turn your head, and it's like you're going to hit your head on it. But so this is a little taller, which helps. But yeah, so that wasn't great. I think the steering wheel shape is just pretty silly. Also, someone, I think it was Joe, pointed out that it looks like it was put on upside down.
That was so funny when he noticed that.
Right here, but it literally looks like it's upside down. Yeah. It felt like it too when you were driving the car.
Because it's also got that like little piece of fabric that's a different color. Yeah. Like that's normally at the top of the steering wheel to indicate that that's like the center and the top, but really it's down at the bottom. So that was funny when you pointed that out.
Yeah. Strange choice.
You know, we're seeing more and more of these sort of square steering wheels or whatever, right? And I mean, I would say because the steering is so quick, you know, the steering wheel's fine when you're at 9 and 3. Yeah. Okay. It feels fine. Yeah. And because the steering is so quick, you can stay at 9 and 3 a lot more often during regular driving than most vehicles. But anytime you're parking or turning around or any kind of, you know, even turning into, a very low speed to turn into a parking lot or something, you're going to feel the oddity of that steering wheel as it goes through, as you shuffle the steering. And it's just a strange sensation. Yeah. And I don't like it.
Car would benefit from the steer by wire that like the Cybertruck has, right? So that they could relax the steering ratio on the highway, like we're talking about. And then, maybe you wouldn't have to, if they want the square wheel, right? You don't have to turn it so much.
And they want the square wheel. And we have been seeing this from a lot of OEMs, like you said, because they have that driver display up higher. And they don't want the steering wheel itself to block it, which I get. From a usability standpoint, it works. Right. But from an actual driving standpoint, it can be odd and uncomfortable.
Yeah. We were driving an Audi A5 was it the other day, and has a perfectly round steering wheel, and it almost like felt almost it felt weird. Yeah. We loved it, but it felt so weird because it seems like minimum so many steering wheels are at least flat on the bottom, right? But now, of course, they're going to even flat on the top. So, Maddie, what do you got? And maybe anything about controls? Maybe, I don't know. Just throwing that out there.
Yeah. So I think like overall, like when I hopped into the vehicle, I was like, oh yeah. I mean, it looks nice. The displays are pretty, but to me, it felt like it wasn't quite refined enough in terms of everything besides the powertrain because we had a lot of software issues of like the system lagging or this whole screen just like not turning on at all and having to wait like a few minutes for the car to turn on. It said it was like loading.
Right.
And then we had to get the whole steering wheel replaced while we had it
forgot about
borrowed
that, yeah.
because the steering wheel buttons didn't work. And those
I thought you were going to say it was because it was on upside down.
Yeah. No, they put the old one or the new one on the same way.
Yeah,
right?
the same way. So at least it was in the right direction. No, the steering wheel buttons themselves are touch capacitive and unlabeled for the most part. And those stopped working. Yeah. So that didn't allow us to like adjust our adaptive cruise control speed or like use their highway assist, which is their lane centering as well. And then just like interacting with media, which I think steering wheel controls are becoming more and more needed because of how difficult it can be to just do everything media related on the touchscreen.
Right.
And the upper right portion of the display is also, you can also interact with it, and also the left side as well. But there's just a lot going on. I think in comparison to the Air, they have made a lot of improvements to the UI. And so it's a little less disjointed because as before, it was like, it very well was treated as like two separate things.
Yeah.
And now they kind of flow together better. But at the end of the day, you're still having to use this touchscreen and look away
to manage.
Yeah. And it's down low. So I found myself trying to not use the lower one and then trying to use the higher one up instead.
Right.
Because you still have access to like media, navigation, and phone. And you can use the steering wheel to kind of like swipe through those different menus.
Yeah. Yep.
So I found myself trying to find the best way of the worst options.
Make the best out of
Make the best out of a bad situation.
Yes, thank you. And then the wipers and the headlights, those are all on the left side of the display.
Yeah, it was pretty frustrating when it was raining to be like your arm is up here like this trying to manage the little left display.
Yeah.
Yeah, that got kind of frustrating.
And trying to not like accidentally turn the headlights on.
And what's the deal with those unlabeled steering wheel buttons? I mean, those are just annoying, right?
They are annoying. Yeah. You don't even like, you don't know what you're pressing until you press it and you get some type of result.
And now you're having to look somewhere. So you had to look at the steering wheel
to make sure,
and then you had to look somewhere else to see that it's doing what
you want it to do.
Instead of looking at the road.
Found that the screens were really high. I don't know if you guys felt that way, but like they compared to the Air, that upper screen, they really raised it up, and it was fine during the day, but at night it just felt like I had so much screen in my face.
Yeah,
it was hard to. Like, even though when you turn all the brightness down, but they didn't have, at least at this time, like purely black theme. They're OLED screens, right? So you could make like a really dark theme so you don't have as much light coming at you. I wasn't able to find one.
No,
so that was kind of bothering me.
Yeah, you can turn off like the lower screen.
Yep.
They showed us how to do that.
Right.
And then I couldn't find how to turn off like the right portion of the screen, which is like media and navigation. And there's like a little pop-up on like even just a little bit left to that, so that theoretically you could just turn off that screen and not need it. Yeah. But I couldn't find out how to do that. So I was getting a lot of light at night that I just really wanted to turn it off.
Yeah, agreed.
Couldn't.
Right.
And mirrors and steering wheel adjusted the combination of the screen and the steering wheel, right? That's not the best. I mean, that's a situation where for me, once you get to driving, now if I do want to make any more adjustments, I won't. Because
it's too hard.
It's too hard.
Yeah.
Right. And
especially the mirrors. That's just not acceptable.
The exterior door handles. They're electronic. We're seeing these more and more.
Yeah.
Yes.
And it's a huge delay. I found that really annoying. And because they're not like a pull-out kind, they're a lift up, it just makes the whole thing worse, right? You know, you pull the...
Yeah, they got to pop out first, and sometimes they do, sometimes they don't.
Right, so those...
found on the Air, too.
Those are kind of annoying. Yeah. And then, how were the seats for you guys? Because for me, I kind of found them uncomfortable in all three rows, even though there's lots of space.
Yeah.
There's, first of all, the driver's seat has too much built-in lumbar support, so even when it's maxed out, it was kind of digging into my lower back.
Love lumbar.
You do?
Yes. I thought it was comfortable for me.
Like things poking me.
That's fair.
You know? But that's why we, you know, in our road test, we try and bring in all the different body types and everyone likes different things. But also just the upper seat back portion was just too hard for me in both first and second rows. Okay, I want to talk about one more thing. Center console design, specifically this weird tray thing that I think you have a story. I definitely have a story.
I have a story.
Okay, we all have a story. about
I have
something.
one other thing too after that I don't
something
wanna forget,
getting
but
stuck in there or whatever. So
Yeah.
it
you
was
want to.
like, it reminded me of the junk drawer that I'm trying to eliminate in my kitchen, where like a credit card or something gets stuck in there. And
Yeah,
you
just
can't
you can
open it.
explain
it,
a
you
little bit
can't
what we're talking
yeah.
about.
Yeah, there was this like shallow tray thing that you can slide back. Basically, it goes underneath the console, under the screen.
Or
right?
you can have it come back out.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Yeah.
And so when you push it back, you can get access to what's underneath and whatever. But the gap there between what you're sliding back and the top part of the storage area is really low, right? So anything too tall is just going to get stuck or prevent you from sliding it back. Or what happened to me is it gets stuck when it's in there and you can't bring your thing back. So yeah, I don't know. I didn't find the benefit of it.
Yeah. What about you, Maddie? What was your story?
Mine was, well, the center console was out, so I didn't have the problem of it not coming out. It was that I would accidentally move it, and then the lid that you can use that kind of just like you push it lightly and then it comes out and covers the whole thing. I would accidentally like move the thing forward with my water bottle in it, and then it would hit that lid, and so the whole thing would just like get stuck, and then my water bottle would be right below the the fan speed button, and so then it just blasted the fan and all the way up to 10.
Wow, that was like a Rube Goldberg like series of events just like unfolding.
Yeah, so it's like I don't want to have to worry about that.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
What
So,
about you?
Well, for me, so I didn't even really notice it at first. It was pushed in, right?
Okay.
And so, and I had my sunglasses and maybe some keys or my house keys or something in there. And I thought like, oh, well, let's see what this does. And I pushed it and it comes out, and it got stuck so that my sunglasses and other things were stuck in there, and I couldn't get the sunglasses out. I really honestly could not.
That's something you can break.
I had
Yeah.
to, well,
Yeah.
I had to eventually just work so hard at it that the sunglasses got all scratched up, and they're unusable.
Oh no,
They weren't that expensive, but it was like super frustrating. I'm like, how could this happen? It's again because it's just the wrong size to get anything that's smallish stuck in there, and it was honestly kind of frustrating.
Oh yeah, I mean, you lost a
that
pair of
stinks.
sunglasses
Yeah,
to that
sorry
car.
about that.
Yeah.
So I had one other kind of ridiculous thing happen that I was just remembering, and it happened to me in the air too. So it was raining pretty good, and approached the car to get in, and because they're trying to basically like have the car wake up before you get to it, right? It turned the windshield wipers on as I was going to get
Oh
in
yeah, you told me about
the
this.
driver's seat, so it just flung
You got soaked.
like an acre of water at me just that was sitting and the air did the same thing. Like I feel like that's an easy thing to not do, right? Just wait until you detect that someone's in the seat or something. I don't know.
Yeah. Well,
That was kind of nuts.
yeah, maybe
that's funny.
what is this car made in Arizona? Maybe it never rains in Arizona or
Oh.
something.
I didn't
So.
think of that.
And they're like, we're just going to try and be helpful.
Yeah.
But
Oh, there
too
you go.
helpful.
There's one tip for you.
I think we should talk about briefly
Okay.
the actually putting down the second row and third row seats.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just kind of clunky getting the seats all down. Like it was clever the way that if the front seats were in the way of the second row folding, that they would slide them forward so that the second row didn't hit, which happens in some cars, believe it or not. So they did that. That was kind of clever. But then, yeah, I just noticed like even with the second row already folded, if you press the buttons again, it would move the front seats for no reason. It's like I think it happened too if somebody was sitting there.
Yes, you get a little notification, but it's kind of bizarre to just suddenly feel your seat move forward and move back.
Yeah. It's not like it folded the person in half, but it was a little, maybe surprising. The other thing too is the hatch. They, similar to the Air, the way they do the cut line of the hatch, it like is this big clamshell thing in the back, which is, I guess it's unique. It looks cool, and you can also get stuff in a little easier, but at least with the one that we had, which had the air suspension, it would sit pretty low. And for me, I would open the hatch and I had to be really careful to not hit my head on the sharp edge of the clamshell when it's open.
Tall
the way they
people
cut it.
issues.
I guess.
wouldn't
Me
know
and
about
Maddie
that.
don't have those. We don't have those problems. Okay, so we do have a first drive about this Gravity that we borrowed up on cr.org. We will be purchasing our own version, and so with that, let's move on to the next segment, which is audience questions. And don't forget, the best place to send those questions, comments, videos is cr.org/talkingcars. And most people probably know by now, but if we choose your question and use it on the show, then we will send you some CR swag, like maybe a t-shirt, trucker's hat, or I don't know if we have truckers hats, but maybe we should. Maybe we should.
Don't make empty promises.
Yeah. Okay. And and we do like those videos. So wouldn't you know, we actually have one today. And this comes from Ryan, who lives in British Columbia, Canada. But it sounds like he might be from somewhere else originally. So let's give a listen to Ryan.
Hi, Talking Cars. I've got a question about the lifespan of vehicles, sort of getting the most out of them. Recently upgraded from a Toyota Camry hybrid 2007 to this 2015 Sienna. But as you can see, I've also got Tundra here and MR2 from 1992. Trying to find a sweet spot between, a new vehicle and depreciation while also getting sort of the best years, I guess, out of a vehicle, and then resale at the end of a sort of period. So 215,000 miles on that Tundra, hoping to get a bit more out of that. 120 on the Sienna and 180 something on the MR2, which I'm hoping will go for a lot longer. Yeah, just curious to know your thoughts about depreciation, vehicle lifespan, and resale. Thanks. Keep talking cars.
Okay, so right off the bean, it seems like he's doing most things right. But Maddie, tell Ryan about maybe some potential downsides to the way he's, these older models, high mileage, all that kind of stuff.
Sure. Yeah. So older models tend to come with not as many active safety features as newer models do. We're seeing a lot of newer models come with standard like AEB, forward collision warning, even AEB on the highway and with pedestrian detection. So Toyota in this case, for both his Tundra and his Sienna, those are going to likely come with standard Toyota Safety Sense. So that's going to include like lane keeping, lane departure warning, the AEB and forward collision I was talking about. So older versions, I believe the 2015 Sienna had some of these as optional, but most of them as not even available. Okay. So really missing out on a lot of those features by holding on to older models, as well as the crash structures of the vehicle themselves. There's always advancements going on in the structure and the metals and like those crumple zones and airbags. And so if in the future he's looking at newer vehicles, take a look at IHS's website. They do a lot of crash testing. They're always updating their protocols to always keep the bar higher so that these cars just increasing safety. So that's my suggestion.
And also kind of to your point, and this is part of the reason why we are seeing more and more vehicles with these thick roof pillars, because they're meeting these crash standards, right? So they kind of the downside is that it does hurt outward visibility, which is a safety detriment, right? That you can't see as well out of the cars. But you look at a car from the 90s, the pillars were super, super thin, so much glass area everywhere, but the crash structure is just nowhere near what they are now.
Yeah.
It was hard for me to look at these vehicles, and especially that second gen MR2, and not be like, oh my gosh, like this fleet seems perfect to me, especially that MR2.
Yeah, he's doing it right. I mean, if you're trying to balance, the depreciation and getting the most out of these vehicles and resale, like Toyota, right? These 10-year-old Toyotas are doing that. I mean,
he chose the right brand.
Yeah. But that MR2, 180,000 miles on that MR2. That's sweet. I hope they were all from you, Ryan. I hope you put all 180 on it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think if you're gonna, your resale is not going to be great when you are trying to resell an older vehicle with a lot of miles. But like you said, if there's any automaker that you can do it with and get away with still getting some money back, it's going to be a Toyota. So sure seems to us, Ryan, that you're doing things pretty right. And again, especially that MR2, that thing looks so cool. Okay, next question comes from Mel from Greensboro, North Carolina. I'm going to put my glasses on here, kind of do my Mike Quincy old man thing. Just Mike Quincy dig. Okay, so Mel says, my husband Shane with his dad Bob just got a 2025 Kia Soul EX for his 50th birthday. We have a 2020 Kia Niro hybrid with nearly 120,000 miles as well, and trying to maximize the life of each. When we drive from North Carolina to Florida to see my family, which car should we take? Should we save the Niro for around town and my occasional 1-hour commute, or should we continue to put big miles on it with trips to Florida? Obviously, the Soul isn't a hybrid, so how much should we take the mileage difference into consideration? So, Alex, let's start with you. What's your answer for Mel here?
Yeah, I mean, Mel, honestly, I think like we can get into all the nuances of the mileage and trying to, save one car and its mileage over the other. But for me, or if it were me, I would say take whichever one is most comfortable. If one of these two vehicles is better for you on a longer trip, take that one on the trip. Because both of these vehicles, even though one's a hybrid, one's not, are pretty efficient, good on gas, right? But I guess if that's not a sufficient answer, I'd probably just I would keep putting the miles on the Niro hybrid, right? It's already got 120,000 miles on it. So you've kind of reached that point where this is going to be considered a high mileage vehicle. So adding more from a long road trip's not really going to change things other than maybe having to do maintenance on that car. So yeah, that's my suggestion. And then just quickly plugging our website. If you go onto cr.org and you go use the compare tool for cars, we actually have a little thing in there where you can say basically how much you drive. So in this case, I just put in like 1,000 miles, and you can put the Soul next to the 2020 Niro and use all of our information to see the difference in cost. And it's not that much, honestly. Yeah. So, but anyway, play around with that. That might help answer your question.
Yeah, too. And that compare thing is very easy to use and pretty darn cool.
Yeah,
so, yeah,
definitely
suggest that. Maddie, what about you? Any thoughts from Mel?
Yeah, so I think in this case, I mean, I am the safety person on this panel right now. So I am going to talk about the differences in the safety. And so back in 2020, there weren't as many standard safety features, of course, and you're going on a really long trip, so anything could happen. So my recommendation is to use the vehicle that has the most active safety features. Like I said, you never know what's going to happen. But in other areas, I did see on our website using the comparison tool that the Soul has better braking distances, better daily and emergency handling, and then in terms of comfort, we did rate it as having better seat comfort than the 2020 Niro. Take that into consideration. If he's going on this long trip, then luggage becomes a question. And the Soul does not hold as much as the Niro. So I do recommend, like, if you're not packing a lot of stuff, take the Soul.
Well, that's the kind of the funny thing, because the hybrids are typically actually more efficient in the city driving than they are on the highway. Like they're going to get better fuel mileage there. Yeah. But in this case, the Niro is so efficient all the time that it's more efficient than the Soul in the city and on the highway. So it doesn't, from that perspective, it doesn't really matter. Right. You're certainly not losing anything by using the Niro on your long trip. My only suggestion would be, I personally would probably maybe take the newer vehicle just because it's newer and has a lot less miles. And so there's just percentage-wise, I would think, less chance of breaking down on a longer journey. So that might be a reason why I might go with that.
They also just announced, since we first talked about this to recording today, that the Soul goes away after 2025, so you might have a collector's item. So another
so maybe don't put the miles on it.
Another reason to keep those miles.
Yeah.
So.
All right. Well, that's going to do it for this episode. If you want to learn more about the topics and the cars that we talked about, you can click on the links in the show notes. Don't forget to send those questions, comments, videos to cr.org/talkingcars. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see y'all next time.